we are super excited to have you all here. Thank you all for coming out. This is the culmination of a year's worth of effort from a lot of different people. One of the things we found through this process is that we've got some very unique stakeholders in Ogden right now, and we're not always singing from the same sheet of music. With Weber State and the Tech College and Ogden City and Weber County, there's a real opportunity we found to bring all of those voices together and really amplify what we're doing in Ogden City. We're very proud to have Roger Brooks here, and we thank him and his team. He's going to introduce them here shortly. But what a great turnout to come see what we're doing and where we're going. The success of this project will be on all of us agreeing with this and really pushing where we're going. We've been recognized, as you'll see a little bit later, all across the United States as being an extremely unique community, doing very unique things, and this will help highlight a lot of those efforts and really bring it together. So we're really excited to be here today. We thank Roger Brooks and all the people that have volunteered to be a part of this over the last year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger, our professional, and he's going to talk about some of what's happened and really set the stage for what we're going to see in the future. So thank you all for being here. This is a great turnout, and we really appreciate and need your enthusiasm to make this successful. So thank you for being here, and Roger Brooks.
Thank you. You ready? Yes. All right, we're going to have some fun. It'll take just a little over an hour, I think, and we're going to dig right in. And we've been here this week since Monday, and I'm here with my teammates, and I would like them to stand. They're all over here by the post. We have Greg Fursell, Jordan Pogue, John Kelsch over there, and we've been here. It's been awesome, and they live in Seattle, and they brought all the rain and drizzle that you've seen over the last 4 days with them. So we're glad to see you this morning getting up and seeing the mountains out there like that. So we're going to dig right in on everything that we've been doing. And as the mayor said, this has been going on for a year. And so this is and we're still not even done. But I think one of the things that's really important is to let you know why the city is doing this. And there are 5 different things we want to change, and one is that out-of-date perception of Ogden, particularly outside of Ogden. And I got to tell you that in all my visits to Ogden, we came in secret, shopped you. A lot of you saw that workshop, and we have not found a human being yet in Ogden that doesn't absolutely love Ogden. So this problem is not in Ogden, it's outside of Ogden. As a matter of fact, it's not even really outside of Utah. It's in Utah where some of the out-of-date perceptions still exist. So that's one thing that we want to accomplish out of this. And number 2 is to make your downtown a key economic driver, the main attraction, so that the tax base relies on the commercial side more than the residential side. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. And number 3, to attract private investment, family wage jobs, little higher income jobs, which is tough because every city in Utah wants that. And then number 4 is to unify the community. As the mayor said, you know what you have, even at a city level, you have Parks Department and Public Works and Planning Departments, and then you've got the council, and then you've got all these different departments. But then, as the mayor said, you've got Weber State, you've got local chamber of commerce, you have tourism, you have all these elements. How do we get everybody to be singing out of the same hymnal? And that's really important to this. And then finally, to prioritize a lot of projects that you could do to accomplish what you're about to see. Because the city has an extremely full plate of projects that have nothing to do with this whole branding initiative. So we want to say, well, where can we fit some of these in there and help the city prioritize those? So to get going, there are 2 kinds of brands out there, and I hate even using the word branding because people think it's about logos and slogans, and it's not. And I'm going to touch on that. This is, you know what? I hate to say it, it's about cash. There's the feel-good logo and slogan and everything that would say, oh, Ogden, a great place to live, work, and play, which, by the way, is what 4,000 cities and towns across the U.S. use. We all think that of our hometowns. This is about economic development. Getting people to say, I want to live in Ogden, versus, oh, I work in Ogden, but I'm going to live in Layton or somewhere else. See what I mean? This is about getting those businesses to come here. This is about getting tourism to come here. and Phil Eckel Center, which is doing well, but all the other visitors up at Snow Basin Powder and the other places to spend more time and money in Ogden. And you win when you import more cash than you export. So there's a lot of people in Ogden that probably every once in a while may go down to Station Park or Farmington or Lagoon or somewhere else. That's leakage. And so we want to get people here to spend more time and more money here. And that is the same with any business. So when we talk about this whole branding word, there's 10 things you need to know. And the first one is that branding is the art of differentiation. What sets you apart from the other approximately 250 cities and towns in Utah, let alone those in Idaho and the states surrounding you? So it's the art of differentiation. What sets you apart? Number 2, it is a perception. It's what people think of you, not what you say you are. So when you tell people, I live in Ogden, what do they say? Are they saying, oh, that's awesome. I wish I could live there. That's what we want them to say. And that's what a brand is. So when you say, I live in Ogden, whatever they say is your brand in their minds. That's what a brand is. And then and how they're created, by the way, is first thing, visual cues. All those years of people calling Ogden the armpit of Utah and everything really has nothing to do with Ogden. What it has to do is all those entranceways off of 15 before you get into Ogden. And so is that a fair judgment? No, but that's what we do. We judge the book by the cover. And so number 2 is people and attitudes. When we talk to people, what are they like? And then number 3 is word of mouth. What people are saying about you. And tied to that with publicity, social media, what's in the news. And so that is the top ways that brands are out there. What they see, what they hear. And so things like when you pull off the freeway and you're sitting there ready to turn and this is what you see, creates a perception of Ogden. And so, and by the way, most of your exits off of 15 are not far from this picture. And so, and granted, it's not fair. They're judging the book by the cover. Or when we see the old blown out signs, we counted, dozens of them. So a lot of the things that you're going to see in the branding are fixing some of these things. And a lot of them are on private property. And so that makes it really challenging. Even if you come up off the front runner and you see our cool mid-century sign, welcome to Ogden, you get off the front runner, walk out, and you see this right across the street. What's your first impression of Ogden? That is why this is so important. So can we put things on the back of that sign that say, historic 25th Street, 1 block? What that says, don't judge us yet, you got a block to go. Can we muralize buildings? When buildings are going to be repurposed, can we put good signs out there that says, coming soon, such and such, so that people see you on the move? And you are on the move, but a lot of people don't know it. So that's really important. And then number 3, logos and slogans are not brands. Have you ever gone anywhere? Have you ever said, I want to head down to Sandy because I think they have a really cool logo? Or have you ever said, I really don't want to go to Logan because I think their logo sucks? You don't. And by the way, I have no idea what Logan's logo looks like. And so it doesn't matter. Your logo just doesn't matter. You're going to see a logo, and we're not even done with that yet. And so here's the deal. Brand identities, that's what a logo is. And they make up 2% of a brand, but they always command the attention. Matter of fact, even with our working team, we even had that where the logo always becomes a point that people pick on when really it's pretty insignificant. And so, by the way, would you say, between these two, I'm going to buy Reebok just because I think their logo's cooler than the Nike one? You don't. You base it on the product, not the logo. And have you ever said, there's no way I'm going to buy a Ford because I love the Chevy logo? You don't. You base it on the product. And then number 3, do you say, I'm going to drink Coke because I like red better than blue? See, so at the end of the day, logos and slogans are not brands. Okay? And number 4, you never use focus groups. We had a brand development team right here in Ogden. You're gonna meet them in a few minutes. They were not a focus group. Matter of fact, even when it came down to brand identity stuff, we hand out little cards and have them weigh in individually. They were there to help navigate the minefields. What can we do? What can't we do? What are the priorities? And all of that part of the branding effort. And then number 5, a brand evokes emotion. It's a feeling. When we can evoke emotion, people will remember you. So we did some things that you're going to see that even people on our team were a little bit uncomfortable with. But if you don't push the envelope, you're going to be milquetoast. And you know what? Ogden has never been about milquetoast. And so it's a feeling. And number 6, all successful brands are built on product, not marketing. Here's the deal. Marketing, and by the way, everything you're seeing here applies to you in business. All these rules. But here's the deal. Marketing will bring us to you once. The product is what brings us back. And that is really, really important. And number 7, you never roll out a brand until you can deliver on the promise it represents. So there's no rolling out today. We're going to show you the feeling we hope to portray in promoting Ogden to the outside world. That's what you're going to see. And then finally, you cannot do branding by public consent. You build your brand of feasibility. And so we did ask you, and you're going to hear that, and your comments, your input were, actually the brand came from the people in Ogden. Didn't come from us. We're the outsiders. We're just facilitating this. But you can't find that final direction by public consent. As a matter of fact, we can't even do a logo by consent even on our Ogden working team. And so you have to build it on feasibility. There's the challenge. If you try to make everybody happy, you're going to end up with something that doesn't differentiate you at all. You know, and so you can't let local politics kill the effort. I love this quote. You know, a byproduct of brands for the people is the committee that compromises and kills a potential brand home run. This is why you never see statues of committees in public parks. You see brave leaders. And that's what it takes. As a matter of fact, even though the city facilitated this process, this is not just a city project. If you want to do things publicly, here's how it usually goes. There's enthusiasm. Oh, that Brooks guy came in, and we're really pumped, and we've got a new story to tell about Ogden. We're really pumped up, and then we start planning it, which we've been doing this week, and we're going to be doing it over the next couple of months. And then there's disillusionment as people say, I really hate that logo. I really hate that tagline. I really don't like that. And then there's the little blogs that show up. And then there's fear and panic, search for the guilty, punishment of the innocents, and finally, praise and honors for the non-participants. Did I get that about right? The mayor's going, yep. Just kidding. And, you know, so that's the challenge. Number 9, there it is. You build your brand feasibility. Of all the ideas we heard from you, which one of them makes the most sense, is the most feasible, and will lead to success? And then finally, the last one is you build your brand through public relations. Remember, a brand is what people think of you. It's the perception. That's PR. That's word of mouth. That's social media. You know what? Ogden started off with booze and brothels and rail. You know, here you are 150 years later, and some of that perception still persists. And so that's where public relations comes in. And by the way, there's only 3 killers of this entire effort. There's never 4, only 3. One is local politics. And you know what? It is worse with membership organizations than it is with city council. It's just local politics. So we're not saying the council would kill this. We're just thinking that just the local politics. And by the way, when I talked about branding, you can't do branding by public consent, here's what you need to know. Your elected officials were elected to be all things to all people. Brands aren't. And that's why this effort needs you, the community, to say, council, we love it, go for it, and push them forward. So local politics. Lack of champions, those people who will stop at nothing to make sure it moves forward. And then finally, lack of money, both public and private. And by the way, the best branded cities in America are built on private sector investment, not public sector amenities like trails. Think about it. Napa Valley and wine. There's no publicly owned wineries in Napa Valley. Orlando and 172 attractions, all privately developed. I mean, Nashville country music, that's not public sector. I mean, the best brand communities. I could go Branson, Missouri, a town of 6,500 people. It has 49 music theaters, all of them privately owned. So that's what you need to know. By the way, the reason lack of champions up there in yellow is because if you have great champions, they will cut through the politics and they will find a way to make it happen. So, over this particularly the last 6 months, we've been working with your team through a 13-step process. Sounds like AA, doesn't it? Through a 13-step process, and we're going to walk you through that. And we started out with a brand development team and an outside facilitator. We're the facilitator. We are not consultants. You can't have somebody come from the outside and plop a brand on Ogden. So we're here to facilitate the effort because we can play devil's advocate. And believe me, our team, the Ogden team, heard me do that all week. They're going, man, alive, is he even listening to us? Because we're playing devil's advocate. And so these are our team members, and I'm going to have them stand in a minute, but we really made sure the city is, so that we have every department, that we have everybody everywhere really, really involved with this. And so I would like our team to stand up, our Ogden team, because they put a lot of time and effort into this. And a lot of you may be thinking, you know what? They get paid to do this. Most of them work for the city. You know what? Every single person on these 2 pages of list already have full plates. So this is in addition to that. And by the way, even just this week, we met Tuesday for several hours. We met Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, yesterday morning, yesterday last night. Amy was working with us last night until 12:30 this morning. And so this is in addition to their work. And you know what? They had no problem participating because Ogden means everything to them. And so that was really cool. They were an awesome team to work with. So we put together that team, and then the next thing we did is we put out there a questionnaire. And it was, this is your chance to weigh in Ogden's future. 1,720 people weighed in, plus we interviewed more than 70 people, plus we talked to, dozens of plans and studies, other things that you're working on. And then, more than 100 local citizens attended our previous workshops, this one. And by the way, this is it. This is that questionnaire, what people said. If you can't really see this, but there was no multiple choice. This here is double-sided pages at about 5-point type. I'd read you some of it, but I have to go find my reading glasses. But it is amazing what you said. So remember I said you can't do it by public consent? It doesn't mean we don't ask. It doesn't mean we don't. The only time it isn't public consent is when it comes down to the final decision of where we're going. And that was built on feasibility. So I hope that makes sense because your input drove this. And everything you're going to see came out of what you said. There's nothing we did that wasn't in here. And that was really cool. It's quite a document. By the way, there was a fair amount of sarcasm. Usually is. And there were some incredible thought-provoking comments and ideas. And so, by the way, 74% of the people that did this live within the city or within 5 miles of the city. which is great. But we did want to hear from that other 24% because we're interested in what their perceptions are of Ogden. And then, in this age group, a quarter of the people were 21 to 30, 38%. That was our target market. And so we got 38, 48, 58, 62% of everybody that responded were millennials or the Gen X group. And by the way, I'm not saying that if you're over that age, I'm in that bracket, easily, didn't count. We were just glad to see that the youth that are in Ogden, the young people and young families weighed in, because often they don't. And then women accounted for 58%. We usually like it, 60-40. Here's why. Women account for 80% of all consumer spending. I'm waiting. Yeah, there we go. You go, girl. Or usually there's a guy in the audience that says that's all. But women also make 70% of the decision where we travel, where we're going to eat, where we're going to live or move a business. And the guys are going, yeah, tell us something we don't know. But that is why we're glad to see that. Okay? We asked 10 different questions, and I'm not going to go through all 10. I'm just going to go through a few highlights. When we said, when friends and family visit, where you take them, and they listed the great outdoors. They didn't say those words. They say, we go on the Bonneville Trail, or Bonneville Shoreline Trail, or we go to Snow Basin, or we go to, whatever. And they listed all the great outdoors. I mean, it was an extensive list. It was an awesome list. 25th Street kept coming up over and over and over. The Junction came up when you take people, and we thought that's cool. Because you know what we see in a lot of cities? When friends and family visit, they take them out of town. That was cool. That what you listed was basically here in Ogden or right here or over in the Ogden Valley. When he said, what do you think your 3 greatest assets were? Predominantly our proximity to all of this. That you could work in downtown Ogden, and during lunch, in 3 to 5 minutes, you'd be on a trail. And you can't, other than even Park City, it's not that easy. And then downtown Weber State were common threads. When it came to challenges, that perception that were dangerous or blight, what you see when you come off of 15. Schools came up a lot. Sometimes these are perceptions more than realities, but what needs to be done was clean and renovate. And these are just general themes. More and better marketing, shopping. People say, we want a Trader Joe's, or we'd like to see even more downtown retail, even more restaurants. And by the way, we were shocked to read that. That was a common thread, because you have more restaurants per capita that aren't changed. And we think it's awesome. This is the first time our crew has gone somewhere we had to argue over which restaurants to go to. But even more. You know what? If you had another 40 restaurants, you'd probably have people coming to Salt Lake just to eat dinner. And so slow the business turnover. There's a fair amount of turnover. That came up. We'd like to see even more events. And boy, you guys already are awesome at events. And so when we asked people what the perception was, this was interesting. It's because within Ogden, the people have a positive perception. And by the way, we didn't ask the people, say, what is your perception? We said, what do you think the general perception is? And so the people within Ogden says, we think the general perception is 41% positive, 29% negative, and maybe 30% neutral, okay? When we asked people that live between 6 and 20 miles out, so still pretty much in the county, people said, what do you think people think of Ogden? Positive was 35%, went down. Negative 32, neutral 32, or 33. And then out of the area, people live in Salt Lake or live far north or south of you. Notice the positive, 41, 35, 33. But what was really cool is on this last one, neutral, 37% really don't have a perception of Ogden. That's cool. That means we can swing their vote your way. And that is cool. But it was interesting to see that. It's obviously the people in Ogden believe in Ogden. And so, a couple other things. When it came to branding folks, outdoor recreation, access to it all. The challenge we had to that is name a place in Utah that doesn't have amazing outdoor recreation. And so we had to narrow it down even that, but it is important. And then feelings to portray, oh, we're innovative, we're real. Raw, progressive, down to earth, non-judgmental, mountain college town. I mean, these are just feelings that you said in the questionnaire. And then finally, somebody said it only takes about 10 to 15 minutes to get everything you want. You can live some distance from downtown and you can walk back home. Pretty cool. And then, I love the energy of the young generation of entrepreneurs and the people who are willing to work for a sense of community. That was really cool. And so it was really a great exercise. So once we got that, we had to figure out, who, by the way, are we even attracting to Ogden? So we went and grabbed some numbers. Who lives, within a 5-mile radius, that 5-mile radius, you say, well, we have a population of 85,000. You know what? Really, do you care about city limits? Do you ever say, whoa, there's North Ogden, turn around quick? See what I mean? We don't. No offense to North Ogden, by the way. But we don't care. But if you do a 5-mile circle, we did it from Washington to 25th Street. We did, how many people live within a 5-mile circle? Because that's more important than who lives within the city limits. 148,000 people. That's your core market. I mean, that's awesome. And then you go out 10 miles, it's 354,000. You have the second largest metropolitan area in the state. You go out 15 miles, 461,000. So we're sitting there going, what could we do to get more of that 461,000 to spend more time and money in Ogden? Those are big numbers. And so we said, well, the first thing we got to do is absolutely cater to the 85,000 approximate residents that live within Ogden. And then the additional 63,000 that live out just in those areas right around the city. And then the other 313. And it's in this order. And then residents along the Wasatch Front, which is 1.4 million. We didn't go down to Provo, that far down. And then visitors coming to Utah from the Western United States. You know what? We do a lot of work with your Department of Tourism. And we've always said, we think the Mighty Five campaign is absolutely incredible. It's one of the most successful tourism campaigns in U.S. history, by the way. But there's been a lot of blowback from our friends in Flaming Gorge, which is the other end of the state. But you know what? We actually did the Mighty Five. We came right down 15. Give me a reason to stop in Ogden. Because we did go out of our way to go to Park City. I mean, we even stopped at, I think, Station Park and down the road. And so, got to do that. That's how important it is. Demographically, there's who we're catering to. That's our core market. By the way, if you're saying, well, thanks a lot, I'm a boomer and you don't care about me, absolutely we do. But this is our core market. You know what? Finally, the millennial generation is bigger than the boomer generation. And here's something we found out working in places like Asheville, North Carolina. When you cater to the millennial generation, you're going to get us boomers too. We like hanging out with you guys, much to your chagrin. So, and their families. And by the way, you're already getting them. We'd love to see, 60, 70% of Weber State graduates say, we love Ogden so much, we're staying put. Wouldn't that be awesome? And then business in aerospace, recreational technology, software, I kind of group those together. It's cool that your economic development is even narrowing its focus onto 3 core industries. And there they are. And so, small businesses, big dreamers, inventors, innovators, that is our demographic. And then we're looking for people that want a personal renaissance. I can start fresh in Ogden. One cool thing about Weber State, they have no barriers. They don't care what race, color, creed, whatever you are, grade point averages. They have an open enrollment system. New beginnings. I'm going to show you a couple of those. Fiercely independent high achievers. They have big dreams. And where you can be different and totally accepted for who you are. Okay, we argued yesterday about different being in quotations. And we're talking about this community that is unconditionally welcoming. And you may have a little bit of work to do on that, but we want to aspire to do that. And then number 4, now we compile who we want to attract, where they live, the kind of the lifestyle, what you said, put it all together. And I always say, always do what you're afraid to do, Ralph Waldo Emerson. And then, we came up with all these brand candidates. Okay, well, should we hang on outdoor recreation, the skiing, the biking, the hiking, the fact that you have lake and skiing within like 10 minutes? That proximity. And then we said, but maybe we should hang it on our vibrant downtown, the culinary, the funky, the edgy, the gritty. The nightlife, where the locals go to hang out. Maybe it should be on this renaissance, this revival, because you as a city are going through a major renaissance. New beginnings, that change, downtown, the commercial areas, you're personally. We're affordable, we're non-judgmental, we're accepting. All of these things kept coming up. And at the end of the day, we looked at that list and we went, holy smokes, how's this going to set us apart? How do we narrow our focus? And one thing we came to realize that Ogden is a way of life. And Ogden is not the typical Utah town. You're the one city that was founded on rail, booze, brothels. That really isn't typical Utah. And I'm not saying that's your way of life, by the way, because I think you've done a good job transitioning from that. What we really mean is unconditionally welcoming, unabashed, and fiercely independent. That has been Ogden since day one. And we're going to share a few of those stories with you. And so, the Renaissance city. That is not our tagline. But talk about a renaissance. Look what's been happening here over the last 16 years. And you're going to see some of that. I'll give you a good story right here is Damian Lillard. You know what? When he graduated from high school, grew up in Oakland, he graduated from high school. He was not on anybody's list as a college recruit. People didn't really notice him. He didn't have colleges banging down the door. But this little school that I don't even know if you'd heard of before said, you know what? We're all about new beginnings. We're all about renaissance. Join us in Weber State. And of course, I'm sure all of you know the story. He went to Weber State. He ended up, breaking all kinds of school records or all kinds of even college sport records. And then, of course, he was drafted the 6th draft overall in the NBA. And is now in Portland State, or now in a Trailblazer in Portland, Oregon. And so even him, and just so you know, he just signed a $120 million 5-year extension with the Trailblazers. He was the Rookie of the Year. He is now an NBA All-Star. And you know what's really cool? He wears the letter 0 for a very important reason. To him, that represents O. That stands for Oakland, Ogden, and Oregon. His personal renaissance happened at Weber State in Ogden. That is the spirit of Ogden. And that is the stories we need to tell. So, one of the things we're working on now is the brand leadership team. Who's going to lead this effort? And you're going to see more. I love this. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. And indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. We're looking for those people that'll help push this forward. When odds are 1 in a million, be that one. I could keep going with these. When you see this, if you are 100% enthusiastic behind it, say, yeah, I want to be part of this. I want to push the city forward. I want to do my part. You let us know. If you say, yeah, it's okay, you're out. Because that is how you win. They must be doers, not directors. We want people that will give time to it to really push it forward. And then they need to be willing to take some hits. Not everybody's going to agree. I can tell you now that this stuff is going to be, on television, on the radio, it's going to be in newspapers, and there are going to be people that says, I think that's really lame. There are people that are going to pick on us and say, we could have told you that for $5. And my comment is, we should have. You should have. But the thing is, the brand is already here. The brand is already here. I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know. We just had to figure out a way to package it and tell the story. And There'll be brand cops to protect it. What's it look like? What are we saying? And then number one, more than half should have vested interest in the brand. By the way, there's going to be a focus on your downtown. We want people that are in downtown, that are invested in downtown to help push this forward. They're the voice of the brand. We need these people to go to Kiwanis and Rotary and school boards and hospital boards, city councils, and push it. Because brands can't have to be more than skin deep. And then they can't be politically divisive in the community. That doesn't mean they can't be elected officials. We don't want people that just tend to be overly negative, and by the way, there's always those, and we're not, this is a free country, but we want people that are always positively pushing things forward. And then they will be the steering committee for brand-related projects, wayfinding, and a bunch of other things that you're going to see. They will push the agenda forward, and they never take no for an answer. And finally, at least half should be under 40. Okay, some of you are going, rats, you just counted me out. No. We just need our Pied Pipers to be the generations that we're trying to get here. We want them to lead the effort. And there's my life's motto right there. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. Now you could go right back to Walt Disney, who did this thing called a theme park, and people in Anaheim went, what the heck is that? No way. But he kept pushing it forward and made it happen. So here's the motto of a true champion. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride. So, if this is you, when we're done today, you're going to see people wearing badges. Go up to them and say, I want to be a part of this. And by the way, I told them not to ask any of you, what do you think? They're going to say, isn't this cool? Want to play with us? That is how you do it. And so, these are brand champions in Caldwell, Idaho. These are the brand champions up in Edmonton, Alberta. It's these people, they're the ones who push it forward. So, one of the things we did this week is we had to figure out, what is the product? Remember I said all brands are built on product. Where is it? What is it? And so our list is way more extensive than what you see here. We need to do a better job with wayfinding. And one of the challenges is most of your major thoroughfares are state highways. Wall, 12th, some of these streets. But you know what? Even if you come off, one of my challenges has been since day one is if you come up Interstate 15, there is one sign that says Weber State this exit and Hill Air Force Base. There are no signs that say there's a downtown. There's no sign. All they say is 31, 24. I can't even remember the next one, 19, whatever, and 12. And as a matter of fact, it even says, Ogden next 4 exits or whatever, and 12th isn't even considered Ogden. And then when we take the exit, there's nothing that says Ogden ahead 1 mile. You might even see a sign that says Ogden City, and they see a blown out sign next to it. I told them, take down those Ogden City. Put your signs where make the first best impression, not the city limits. So wayfinding would do a great job. We had a hard time finding your kayak park. I got to tell you, 2 years ago, and I've said this before, I keynoted at your state governor's conference on tourism in Eccles Center. And I'll bet 60 to 70% of us that attended didn't even know 25th Street was a block away. We thought Washington was your downtown. That's what wayfinding does. So that is a core thing. Gateways and entrance route cleanup is huge. And that's going to be challenging because most of the challenges are on private properties, not on city property. And by the way, a lot of those aren't even in the city of Ogden. They're in the county. And then, making 25th Street even better. And it's already great. I have said since day one, it's the best downtown in Utah, that 25th Street. And I'm not taking anything away from the junction, but 25th Street is organic to Ogden. And then a year-round program public plaza. I'm going to show you that in a second. Connecting the junction better to 25th Street. How do we get people across 24th? Doing that a little better. Additional creative office space, redevelopment of industrial sites. And by the way, many of these you're already working on. but we're adding a couple too. I want to talk about this. One of the things we thought would be really cool in Ogden would be to do a public market, a year-round public market opened into the evening hours. Something like this. Notice all those kind of garage doors, they all have windows in them. And during the day, you could roll up those windows and it's all kind of a pavilion space. We kept thinking, where could we put one of these in Ogden? You know, and inside, you could take all that out and do all kinds of home and garden shows and other kinds of events. Notice there's a center stage in there. Sometimes it would be farmer's market to complement what's on 25th. You know, and then we thought, you know what, you already, you know, I mean, can you imagine having a place somewhere in Ogden where you could do all this kind of stuff? Wouldn't it be great? You have 500,000 people around here. I mean, within, 20 minutes. Wouldn't it be cool if you had all these kinds of things going on? I know that, there's a Comic-Con in Salt Lake City. Doesn't mean you can't do one. And so, look at that. Wouldn't that be cool? And you know what? We thought, wait a second, you already got a place. Right here. This is an awesome building. But you know what the problem is? Underutilized. And as visitors walking across Wall Ave, it's not so easy. It's 100 feet across, like 6 lanes. And so what happens is Union Station is kind of, you've got downtown, 25th Street, and then you've got Union Station across the street from 25th. See what I mean? And so that wall is like the Great Wall of China. But it's a phenomenal site. And we thought, how could we connect that better? How can we take advantage of this? But inside we thought, man, can you imagine all kinds of vendors in there? And just make this a public market. And the theater area would be in addition to that. Wouldn't it be cool if down the road the front runner stopped at Union Station and people could walk right to the public market and right into the heart of 25th Street? And so we thought, how do we do that? We thought, well, you know what? Could we actually take Wall, dig it down, and then build kind of a lip over that? So that area square you see there might be what we call a lid. So you still walk all the way down 25th Street, down the sidewalks and right across because the street now goes underneath. Wouldn't that be cool? And then you have a roundabout there. People come down 25th, drop people off in front of the market, and then or pick them up, and then turn around, come back. And then you could even have retail development, additional retail development built on that lid in downtown. Wouldn't that be cool if Union Station was part of downtown instead of across the street? So the way to do it, Union Station needs a lot of work. I've heard everything from $10 to $30 million. Well, if you could monetize it and make it better, we talked to a couple of museum folks, said, wow, we had 1,000 people last year. You should be having that every week. And so, wouldn't that be cool? Now, before you write a letter to the editor 90 days from now and say, how come you haven't done it already? The city has a habit of getting stuff done. The water table there is really close. There's a big major sewer line running right through that. I mean, it's not as easy as it seems. I mean, for me, it's really easy to say, yeah, just build a lid or a piece of cake. And by the way, that's a state highway. The city doesn't even own the street. So these are the kind of heavy, arching things. Plus, if you do that, you still need to invest in Union Station, not even in addition to doing that. Makes sense, but wouldn't that be cool? You know what's so awesome about 25th Street is if you're at the north end, or if you're at the east end looking down towards Union Station, particularly at night when you see that neon lit up, it is awesome. You turn around the other way and you see downtown with those mountains. Oh my gosh. We have worked in 1,500 cities and towns in 45 states, every Canadian province. I don't think I've ever seen a downtown that has the setting you have on 25th. So how do we add Washington to that? How do we get 24th more alive? How do we, join those to the junction? And so I'm going to talk about this just for a minute. Downtowns. Look at that. There's, we might come here for the skiing. We might come here because we're working with the IRS. We might be coming here because of Weber State. But you know what? This is our number one activity. By the way, look at that. That's where 80% of non-lodging tourism spending takes place. Okay? That's why Disney put downtown Disney outside each park to get that 80%. That is the power that you have. They're critical to your success. The heart and soul of any community besides people's is downtown. The brand that you're about to see here in a few minutes, I know you're going, when are we going to get to it? Really is built on that. You're downtown. You know, and by the way, if you don't hang out in downtown, neither do visitors. We go wherever you go. And that is critical. You got to bring it to life. And downtowns are back. You know, even the traditional malls are struggling. People want downtowns. How many of you remember Petula Clark, 1964, downtown? Go ahead, raise your hands. Okay, yeah, you fell for it. You just dated yourselves. But you know, those days are back, and in a big way, and that is cool. But you know what? There's the future of downtowns. It's where we go after work and on weekends. Are you open after work? Are you open all weekend? So, there's the 787 rule. Here it is, 3 statistics. I already told you one. 70% of first-time sales comes from curb appeal. We all travel. Have you ever said, that looks like a nice place to eat? We judge the book by the cover, just like we do for Ogden. There it is. Women account for 80% of all women. I won't pause on that one again. And then, look at that one. 70% of all retail spending takes place after 6 p.m. You wonder why we go to the mall. You wonder why we go to Station Park. You wonder why we go elsewhere. Because your downtown, other than restaurants, closes. You know what? If we're here working during the day, we tend to go home because downtown, other than your restaurants, is closed. Your retailers are closed. And you wonder why we go to Costco and all these other places. You know, that's National Retail Federation came out with that statistic. And that is really, really critical. Even shoe stores are coming back into downtowns. It is absolutely critical. I'm talking about curb appeal, 70% comes from first-time sales. Before, after, same place, sales went up 400%. Just going from that to that. And then number 4, look at this. In economic development, tourism, and community development, there's absolutely, positively, stole that from FedEx, nothing that's more important than your downtown. Even site selectors, what they do, they come in, they say, okay, let's head downtown Ogden and check it out. And the economic health of your downtown is how they judge the economic health of the city. And here's why. We're in the age of third places. First place is the place we work. Second place is the first place is our home. Second place is where we work. And the third place is the place we go to hang out. Roosters, wherever it is. And you know, Starbucks built an entire brand on being third places. We're moving to that. We want the sidewalk cafes. You know, did you know that in the 50s and early 60s, the average family ate dinner between 5 and 5:30? You know what it is today? Between 7:30 and 8. In Europe, it's 9 o'clock. We're moving that way. You need to be open. But the thing is, you got to have people downtown at least 250 days a year. So I want to give you one example. Remember I said there's a program plaza? I want to show you one quick example. This is in Rapid City, South Dakota. Population is about 80,000, about your size. But they don't have another 400,000, 450,000 right next to them. As a matter of fact, the next biggest city is in Billings, Montana, like 3.5-hour drive away. And you know, we suggested that they take that 60-space parking lot next to that empty Sears building and turn it into a public plaza to get their downtown going, because they had a lot of turnover of retail merchants. They just couldn't make it. And there it is today. That Sears building, you see it on the left there, is now full of restaurants and shops. And there it is in the summer. You can see a splash pad out there. You can see a stage on the left. And by the way, they have entertainment every weekend, movies on the square. They do summer nights. They do all of these. That's it during the summer. That's it in the winter. By the way, they make $130,000 a year just renting ice skates. And they have to dole them out because it gets too busy. So they have the splash pad and entertainment in the summer there 120 days a year. They have an ice rink 120 days a year, and they have warmer weather than you have. That's 240 days right there. If you can bring people downtown consistently, and by the way, this everything that goes on here, its peak hours are 4 to 9 o'clock at night. It's after work. Wouldn't it be cool if people say, honey, when you get off work, let's head downtown Ogden? Wouldn't that be cool? Instead of, well, let's go home and, I guess we could go down there this weekend. I mean, how cool is that? I love what this person wrote. Look at the crowd there. This is movie night, Main Street Square, Rapid City. And here's what she wrote. I grew up in Rapid City, and it was never as cool as it is now. Their average attendance at movies on the square is 3,500. Summer nights, every Thursday during the summer, 14,000. And you know what? I used to call Rapid City the hole in the middle of the donut because they all went to Mount Rushmore and everywhere else. They didn't go downtown. And what's really cool, what's really cool is Main Street Square in Rapid City is now a big attraction as Mount Rushmore in just 3 years. No retail vacancies. They're breaking sales records. I mean, you name it. This is the one they're going to build in Caldwell, Idaho. See that oval there? You can see if there's water in it. You could shut that off. It's all flush mounted. You could fill that whole thing full of tables and chairs for the Taste of Ogden. You can fill it full of tables and chairs for concerts. And in the winter, that whole oval there turns into an ice rink. How cool is that? So these are just samples. Wouldn't it be cool to have one of these in downtown Ogden? We're out there doing yoga every morning. Almost every morning. And so, this is what you do. And that could be so cool. So that, if you could bring Union Station into it, wouldn't it be cool as up here next to the amphitheater, you made this your plaza. And on it, you might have that oval. It might look something like that, and then there'd be the stage. This is just really simplistic, but what incredible bookends of Union Station and your plaza, the amphitheater. Oh my gosh. And this would help drive redevelopment along Washington. You got the Fed building right across the street. We'd love to see them to hang out after work in Ogden. Maybe they do. And so, we want you to activate 25th Street even more. These are bus shelters that in Asheville, North Carolina, they put in little vendor spaces during the summer months. And they have all these vendors there, and it just activates downtown. It's really cool. There's the sidewalks, and it's just really awesome. Putting chess pieces, chess games, chess boards downtown, all of these kinds of funky things. And by the way, you're already doing an amazing job. These are taking it Ogden. I love it. That's yarn bombing. That's pretty cool. Love it. Things like that you're doing, amazing. Things, you're already doing a ton of stuff. We just want to put it on steroids. The things you're doing are great. And it's cool. This is what makes Ogden great, are these kinds of things. And that healthy way of life. You remind me of Boulder, Colorado a lot, which is a cool thing. And you're already doing this. We want to punch it up. Cool stuff. And so, now this one's not in Ogden, but doing even fun stuff like that would be great. That's a kissing drinking fountain. Look at this. This is what somebody said. I live here for the mountains. My soul rests on 25th Street. That's pretty cool. Love that. So, what are we promising people? What is that expectation we're putting out there? What do you aspire to be known for? And so how do you make it different? How do you make it memorable? How do you get it to evoke emotion? How do you get people to say, oh my gosh, yeah, instead of, oh my gosh, whoa. So this is the Ogden brand promise. This is not marketing. You'll never see this in any ad. You won't see it on banners. You won't see it everywhere. This is our guiding principle. And it is, as Utah's Renaissance city, fiercely independent and unabashed Ogden always offers an unconditional welcome in an adventurous Mountain Metro setting. Mountain Metro, we just coined that for Ogden. We, the brand team, Ogden. That's what we're promising people. Fiercely independent, unabashed, unconditional welcome. And there may be elements that you got to work on. But that's what we want you to aspire to be known for. And you want to shorten it down. We're the Renaissance City, a fiercely independent mountain metro community. Yeah, it's who we've always been as a city. So, what's it look like? Now you're going to see it. You're going, finally. Love it. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, Leonardo da Vinci. That was Steve Jobs' guiding principle. And one of the reasons Apple's the most highest value company on the planet. So you're going to see some concepts right now. They are not finished. Even the logo is not finished. And so you're going to just see some ideas where it's still a work in process, but I'm hoping that we can show you the feeling we're trying to get across. And so we'd love to do posters like that. All you have to say is why I love Ogden. We want to bring it down to a personal level like Damian Lillard. So you might do posters like that. You might, I love this quote, every weekend's a vacation. I mean, how awesome is that? And by the way, I freaking love it here. Okay, well, there we go. There you go. You want to punch it up a bit. Now, you just did exactly what I thought you would do. When we showed you why I love Ogden, you went, when you saw that, it evoked emotion. That is what you have to do if you want people to remember you. I'm sure there are people in this room that are not very comfortable with that. But you know what? If you want people to remember, you got to do that. By the way, we added a little, I freaking love it. You know what's in quotation? You know who says that? Everyone who lives in Ogden. We heard it at one of your restaurants from one of your waiters. I mean, yeah, punch it up. I freaking love it here. We did friggin' and all that. We tried all the different ones and which ones were a little walking on the edge. And by the way, when you walk on the edge, you win. We did things like this. And so I'm going to, here, I did print this out, but I didn't bring it with me. Didn't catch his name, so sorry if I'm looking at this. What's that?
Sammy Brew.
Yes, I know it's Sammy Brew, but I'm trying to read the text. Without reading glasses and because I don't have my notes with me. Didn't catch his name, and that's what it says there. That's not what I'm saying. Pretty sure the song he was plucking was one of his own. Almost dropped some change in his cup before I realized he was just finishing his drink, not playing for tips. My bad. Interestingly, I just found out he signed a major record deal heading to Nashville. Another score for Ogden. Tell the stories, Sammy Brew. And that's just one example. Here's another one. No one tells us what we can't do. For 3 decades, John M. Browning designed firearms for other companies. In 1905, he invented the world's first semi-auto shotgun. Winchester told him there would never be a market for it and refused to buy his design. Browning decided to build it himself and launched one of the biggest firearm brands in the world because he was from Ogden. Tell those stories. It makes you cool, notoriously inventive. Let me do this one. Flew in from Philly to pre-ride the USA Cycling Masters Road National Championship course, and I see a guy with the same wheels as me. I ride alongside and ask, "You like your wheels?" "Yeah, they're pretty solid," he said. After a few minutes of polite conversation, I find out he lives down the road and built not only his wheels, but mine. Damn locals and their home field advantage. That's envy. I mean, these are the kinds of companies you want. These are the kinds of stories that you need to tell. And we used words like damned in there. I want to thank Shane, working with tourism. He wrote most of this stuff. See, this is local. So you did a great job. Let's do another one. Pedal it forward. Standing at the trailhead, I almost didn't ask the dude for directions. Turns out he's not only the guy who makes all the travel maps, he started the Ogden Bicycle Collective and has put hundreds of kids on bikes who would have otherwise never turned a crank. Some superheroes wear capes, some wear beards. This is Ogden. Is he here? Stand up. Woohoo! This is what makes Ogden different and special is the people. It's hard to do that. You have to tell these cool stories. I hope we got that sort of right. So, notoriously independent. By the way, you see notorious in there. We had a lot of people say, I'm not really comfortable even with the word notorious, but we're using it in a good way. We're taking your past and turning it into independent, innovative. So, nice beard, I said. Thanks, he said, and turned to pour another beer for the guy at the end of the bar. Then the local next to me informs me that our bartender, Nick, won the World Beard Championships in Portland last year. I Googled it, he wasn't lying. You never know who you're gonna meet in Ogden. I mean, you know, I can't help but read these, they're fun. Why I freaking love Ogden. Skied a couple of runs the Snow Basin today with a former Solomon pro. Cool dude, he invited me to meet him for a beer at this kick-ass bar downtown. He paid, nice guy. Notice we're a little on the edge there. Found out after he left that he owns the place. I think I'll stay a few extra days. I freaking love Ogden. So, don't mess with Ogden. I love this one. During the Prohibition era, Al Capone could go anywhere and do anything. But he avoided the speakeasies and brothels of Ogden, Utah, telling his cronies, it's a bit too rowdy for my taste. While no one messed with Al Capone was smart enough not to mess with Ogden. You can have fun with this. Tell these stories. We were talking to Shane at Weber State about a young guy from Mexico, didn't really know English, no university's going to accept him, and you know what? He's now working on, I think, his master's or PhD at Duke because he found his renaissance at Weber State in Ogden. There'll be a community profile, maybe opportunities. We call this conference attire Ogden style. This is the way you live. Yeah, you might be the white shirt and tie, but it's shorts and flip-flops. So I want to create those opportunities. These are some of the key marketing messages. Original, organic, offbeat, optimistic. Find your O right here in Ogden. So these are all the fun things. Our skyscrapers are Ben Lomond Peak, Mount Ogden, Strawberry Peak. Welcome to Ogden. Isn't it time you began your renaissance? This is the place, Ogden. We even thought about saying, I think Brigham Young really meant Ogden when he came over. Said, this is the place. We decided not to go there. While we've replaced bootlegging, prostitution, and gambling with skiing, kayaking, and mountain biking, Ogden's soul will always remain untamed. If you want homogenized, we're probably not for you. And we're talking about the untamed trails, the untamed, it's like we don't live within boxes. Key marketing messages, fiercely independent since day one, always will be. I mean, anything and everything is possible. This is Ogden, why we freaking love it here. Notoriously cool, notoriously different. Look at this. The honors keep piling up. I mean, look at this. Third best place to raise a family, Forbes in 2016. Sixth best place for business and careers. That was Forbes in 2012. Most equal city in America, Newsweek. I mean, it keeps going out. Look at that. That wasn't all of them. That's as many as we could fit on that. You got to tell the world. You know it. They don't. This is an awesome, awesome city. And so, where's the action plan? And that's what we're working on next. Branding, we got it. It's the people. Development, what do we have to do to own it so that we can get people when they come off of 15 to actually come in and discover the real Ogden? First time here, we were eating at Sonora Grill. And we met our waitress, Amber Lee. And we just said, so do you live here? She goes, yeah, I love it here. She might even been the one that said, I freaking love it here. But the point was, she went on and on. She goes, oh yeah, you should drive up on the bench. I didn't know, what's the bench? But we did. We didn't realize that within 2 minutes of Sonora Grill, you could be on the trails. And so we gotta tell people about that. How do you tell the world? And then there'll be the to-do list. That's an action plan. We think strategies, goals, objectives, 3 pages is plenty. And so it's gonna be, here's what you need to do. Here's who's charged. And by the way, this is not just the city. We need Kiwanis, we need Rotary, we need schools, we need everybody to be part of this. Chamber of Commerce, you name it, Weber State. Approximate cost to implement, where the money would come from. When would it be implemented and what's the rationale for doing it? That's an action plan. And I always say, the last thing you need is a big, huge 300-page document where you only read the executive summary and then you put it on a shelf. This is the way action plans should be. Let's get down to it. Let's cut to the chase. That's the way Ogden always is. And what's cool about this entire process, and the mayor started off with this, is you got to get people going from this. There's the typical economic development express. Really cruising along, aren't they? You know what this plan's going to do? It's going to go from that to that. And that is the primary reason you're doing this. So, got to make something happen. You know what? Maybe there's pole banners like this up and down Washington, Harrison, Monroe, other streets. Maybe downtown the pole banners look like that. Still untamed. We even thought about taking the word historic out and putting notorious 25th Street, Ogden. Don't run from your past, embrace it. Doesn't mean you need to be like that, but you should embrace it. That's where you came from. Wouldn't it be cool if you had those downtown? That's photoshopped. If you're going to go, I didn't see those. And so we want you to do the best of Ogden. I forgot to do something. See this book, I Am Ogden? I don't know where this book, who did this book? Yes! You did this in what, like 2008? Yeah. You know what's cool? It's exactly the brand. Did you pick that up? I said, I already did that. You guys didn't get credit for it. This is awesome. It's the people. We saw this sitting in Sonora Grill on the counter there. And so one of our team members from Ogden said, you guys should have this. It is awesome. But that really is what this is about. So anyway, I forgot to do that earlier when we were showing those stories. And that's what they're going to say, geez, did we have to pay you all the money to do all this stuff? It was already here. Well, somebody from the outside had to come and say, it's already here. Wouldn't it be cool? Letterheads might look like that. Wouldn't it be cool if you had, I'm not so sure we could put on police vehicles, still untamed, but So there'll be some appropriate, non-appropriate things, You got to keep the energy high. You can't fold to the naysayers. You got to make it fun. Forget all the reasons why something may not work. You only need to find one good reason why it will. And you can't fold to the cavers. You know what cavers are? Citizens against virtually everything. And there's not a city in America that doesn't have some. I love this. There's our champions. A diamond is merely a lump of coal. It did well under pressure. And so, tell the world. Get out there. Your wayfinding system might have signs that look like this. One thing that's really funny is when we first came here, there's not one single sign anywhere that tells you have skiing. None. Even if you come down 12th and head towards the mountain, you'll see Ogden Valley Recreation. We didn't even know where Ogden Valley was. We thought we were in it. That's before we went through the past, or and so anyway, so connecting these better. They might look like that. And so doing these kinds of things. It wouldn't be cool to have vehicles like this. And so, maybe logo gear, and as a matter of fact, we're even going to punch these up some more, just so we can be pretty cool with the flash drive, the bike pump, things that are about your lifestyle. We'd love to see you all wearing Still and Tame shirts. It's the spirit of who you are. Backpacks, you name it, hats, you name it. We want you to have fun. And then finally, you revisit that plan every month. This is not something you look at once. It sits on your desk, not on a shelf. It's a to-do list. What's cool, it's going to be, how you doing on your list, Tom? How you doing on your list, Amy? How you doing on your list, Sarah? Tourism? You know what I mean? That's what this is about. So in closing, what you have here is incredibly awesome. We don't say that everywhere. Many of the places we get to work are turnarounds. You're already in the middle of it. It's not like we're back 16 years ago at the Olympics. What you're doing is already amazing. We just had to tell that story. And what you have here is really, really amazing. Little things like we hope you don't end up with a bunch of chains on 25th Street. I know there's a couple coming, but we don't want you to be homogenized. So some of these are really core to Ogden since day one. Back in 1844, when you were a population of 500. It's, we've been staying at the Hampton Inn. Every morning we get up, we look outside and we see those mountains. Whether you're looking north, whether you're looking east. We see that and we just go, this place is incredible. And so, from us to you, we freaking love Ogden. And thanks so much for letting us be a part of your journey. Thank you so much.